Hi, I'm Charlotte, and you are watching The Ugly Atheist. Today's episode, we are going to discuss the different types of mystical beliefs or supernatural thinking that we find on both the right side and left side of the political spectrum. And I came across a list that I had compiled many years ago, and I thought it seemed interesting. I don't remember what conclusions I came to back when I made the list. Perhaps it was just making note of the tendencies in these beliefs. And to demonstrate what I mean, I will pull up the I'll pull up the list here for you to look at and read along with me. So this was the graphic that I had made many years ago. We have beliefs or unfalsifiable beliefs made or held by people on the left side of the political spectrum, and I have that, of course, on the left column. And in the right column is our beliefs that are held by right-wingers or conservatives or Republicans. Now, these are just to make a note here. These are just tendencies. These are not hard and fast categories, of course, because all people are different. But in fact, you can even see if you are just glancing through this list as I have it up on the screen before we get into it. There's some that are on both columns, some beliefs that are on both columns. But I figure we can kind of dissect this and maybe figure out why this might be the case. So let's get into it. Starting with the left side of the column, these are some beliefs that are, if you come across somebody who believes in any of these items, there is a high likelihood that they vote Democrat. It's not 100%, of course, as I mentioned, but it's a strong likelihood. So we have healing crystals, acupuncture, cupping, astrology, alternative medicine, paranormal, auras, and the accompanying cerulean photography, I believe it's called, spiritual energy, channeling, tarot cards, and Reiki. And then moving on to the right side of this chart, these are beliefs that if you come across somebody who believes in any of these items, there is a strong likelihood that they also vote Republican. We have homeopathy, anti-vax, flat earth, chiropractic, aliens among us, government cover-ups, which would include things like the belief that the 1969 moon landing was fake. We have faith healing, prophecy, alternative medicine. This is one that also showed up on the left-leaning side of the chart. Creationism and conspiracy, although just to reiterate, I did make this chart many years ago, so conspiracy is looking less and less like an unfalsifiable belief these days, so that's kind of an unexpected turn. So let's take a moment to try to explore why these beliefs tend to fall so distinctly along party lines like they do, like this chart demonstrates. One thing that's apparent, first of all, is that the items on the right they tend to be centered around the Judeo-Christian tradition. Things like faith healing and flat earth, those are taken directly from the Bible. And on the left side of the column, left side of the chart, we have things that are like acupuncture, cupping, Reiki, tarot cards, these are things that are distinctly not part of the Judeo-Christian tradition. These are, for lack of a better word, they're pagan in origin. So it's almost as if it's a rejection of the tradition, which is something you would expect to find with left-leaning people. They sort of reject the Judeo-Christian tradition. They probably find it confining and old, antiquated, backwards, and problematic for modern society. And I think some of that's true in a lot of ways. I can see how the people on the right would be skeptical of big government, because in the Bible it sort of has a tone of skepticism against big government, big organizations. It does tell you to obey your leaders, because your kingdom is not of the earth, it's in heaven. But at the same time, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. So there's a demarcation of, you can trust the government or your leaders only so far. I mean, do what they say, but there's certainly, they don't, they're not to replace God in your life. And if they enact any legislation that goes against your beliefs, then for sure don't trust them and don't give them any more than the minimum necessary. But the other thing I think that's interesting about these lists, is that it demonstrates the human need for a belief in something outside of themselves or bigger than themselves. If you are, for example, a flat earther, then suddenly you're in this paradigm where the government's been lying to you your whole life, lying to everybody to cover up something that's huge, but you have secret knowledge of the reality of the issue. So of course it's going to be ego inflating. It's going to give you a sense of worth and sense of value, like, wow, I need to spread the word. I have a mission now. I need to uncover more of this conspiracy. All of these have some kind of element of that inflates the individual and makes you feel like you have a purpose or, a higher calling. Like people who read tarot cards, they as well have that same sense of having a secret knowledge that they can impart to their fellow humans. So a lot of these beliefs do have some degree of root in egoism, but what I think is the underlying motivation or reason behind our need to believe in things that are unverifiable or unfalsifiable is an overactive cause and effect thinking. An overactive cause and effect thinking. And what do I mean by that? If we go back to, let's say, to give an example, let's say you have a tribe or family of hominids, and one of the members of this group tends to be a little rambunctious, a little irreverent, a little brash, as is the case with every family. You always have one member who's kind of out of line. And let's say this particular member of this family is, one day he is a little bit extra aggressive and hard on one of the elders. The rest of the family are upset at this. And then let's say later that day, this aggressive family member is out hunting with the group and some accident befalls him and he either dies or is seriously injured. Now, here we have, this is where an overactive cause and effect thinking comes into play, especially when you're dealing with higher primates. Well, I guess humans only have this ability to think in the abstract that we know of. I mean, perhaps some of the maybe chimpanzees might also, I don't know what evidence we have of that, but we think abstractly, and our brains automatically try to make a connection between, okay, this guy did something unkind earlier and now he is injured. The two events are completely unrelated, but our brains draw a connection. And the only conclusion that an abstract thinking mind with an overactive cause and effect thinking style would come to, the only conclusion it would come to is that there must be some unseen forces at work that are governing the affairs of humans. That could branch off into something like ancestor worship, which I think is one of the first forms of religion that we see in the fossil record, or archaeological evidence for that, cultural evidence for that. But that's sort of the beginning of religious thinking, and the idea that there is something out there that is beyond us, that is more powerful than us, and that can deliver judgment and deliver mercy and watch over us, like we have a cosmic caretaker. I think that can be demonstrated by looking at each of these practices and beliefs individually, and perhaps we'll do that in upcoming episodes. We can go over some of these and why they're a problem, things like homeopathy, that has been debunked almost on day one, but people still believe it. Flat Earth, chiropractic is one that I know a lot of these, if most of the people who are watching this are probably right-leaning, so they're probably taking offense to some of these on this list, which is understandable. I used to think chiropractics was a real thing, and there are legitimate chiropractors, but I think chiropractic is the version of that medical practice that involves an element of spirituality and this idea of a life force that goes from your brain down through the rest of your body via your nerve canals, your nervous system. So that might be something I'll go over. Take each of these things on the list one by one. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave that there, and we can go over in the upcoming episodes of The Ugly Atheist. We'll probably go over some of these. We'll probably go over these different beliefs and show how they can be demonstrated to be incorrect or very limited at best in their capacity to enact actual change in anybody's life, or to predict any changes. So that's going to do it for today. My name is Charlotte, and you are watching The Ugly Atheist. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week.